Welcome to the Your Next Move podcast with Kimberly Brown. Today we have another special guest and a good friend of mine. I say when I come to Atlanta, it is Maya, and it's Poor Calvin's, my favorite restaurant. So if you don't know Maya, I need to tell you a little bit about her. So she is a personal branding strategist that teaches entrepreneurs how to develop and launch their signature offer. I know Maya as the messaging GOAT. If you have a product or service and you need to make sure you have the proper messaging so your audience knows that it is for them, this is who you go to. She went from running a design agency for 6 years to working in her zone of genius, what she refers to as the impact zone of giving women the clarity and strategy needed for them to change the world through their message. She has worked with thousands of women all over the globe in industries like holistic wellness, fitness, personal finance, life coaching, business coaching, fertilization counseling, ministry, publishing, and career and leadership development, because I've worked with Maya as well. Her life's work is to help women with a vision, make an impact in their industry, and monetize their gifts. Welcome, Maya.
Thank you, Kimberly, and thank you for that amazing intro.
All the time. We have to give flowers here. So originally, I was going to jump into your business because that would be the quote unquote logical step. But one of the things that I love about Maya is her confidence and consistently operating as the highest version of yourself. So can you tell us how you've cultivated that?
Yeah, thank you. I would definitely say a lot of my confidence comes from two places. First, my parents. My parents are immigrants and I'm first generation American, and they really just always pushed my sister and I to operate in excellence and just be the best. And my dad did it from the stance of academia, where he wanted us to be the best in school and wanted us to show up as our best. And my mom did it from a biblical value standpoint, where she wanted us to understand our faith in God. So I would say, because of my faith in God and because of my parents, I've always operated in this level of confidence, even if I was unsure about what I was supposed to be doing next.
So what about the personality piece though? Because I feel like my parents are the same way, but vulnerable moment. One of the things that I struggle with is putting my personality into the excellence. So people kind of think sometimes I'm a little cold. I know I'm not cold. Like, I'm vulnerable when I'm one-on-one, but you put so much personality. Like at your weekend, you always say that you love to twerk and you love God. And we all know that. Was there anything special that got you comfortable with adding your personality into the excellence?
Yeah, it's so funny because, I am very quirky and silly, and I put that out there along with my professionalism. Honestly, I think following other people that are very comfortable with who they are. And I would say my personality came out more professionally back when I was a blogger. And I would see other bloggers. So Regina with byregina.com, she was so good at delivering information and doing it in a fun and quirky way. And that allowed me to be more confident with the way I was blogging. Because I would say when I started out and wanted to position myself as an expert, I wanted to prove so bad that I knew what I was talking about, that all of my content came out like a stuffy professor. And so when I started to infuse my personality, I really started actually making a connection with my audience.
So one of the consistent themes we have is a lot of the entrepreneurs, we've all started as bloggers. So yet again, like we had Tanya Rapley earlier this season, we talked about blogging. So you see a trend here. I think all that 2013, 14, 15 time. We were all blogging like multiple times a week, long form content. And now none of us really blog like that. Like every once in a while we'll throw something out. Got it. So when you're not sharing about your company, you chat a lot about setting yourself up for success personally. I love how you prioritize bringing in joy, ease, and convenience. When did this start for you, and what does that look like?
Oh my gosh. When did it start? I can't even pinpoint exactly when it started, but I know with me, I'm always trying to find that balance of what's the most amount of money I can make, or what's the highest level of success that I can achieve, and the least amount of work possible, right? I'm an incredibly hard worker, and I don't mind doing the work, but I don't like overworking. And so I don't want to do more than what's necessary. I want to do what's necessary, and I'm always willing to do what's necessary. But I do believe a lot of people overwork themselves, and that's when they find themselves in burnout. And I saw a post the other day, I think you and I talked about this at dinner, where it said, for those of you that are able to wake up and meditate and still take their nap and still get all all of their work done. Like, shout out to you because I'm not there yet. And I was thinking, I'm able to do all of those things. And it's not an everyday thing, but it is the majority of how I live my life, but it's because I choose to delegate.
Got it.
A lot of times we're not living with ease because we don't ask for help. And I ask for help. I hire for work that I don't want to do and that I don't need to do, because I do the work that I'm called to do so I can stay in my impact zone.
I love that. That's such a great soundbite too, because I feel like as an entrepreneur, you learn that you do everything. Your accounting, your finance, your marketing, your content. And you also find time to magically do like what your gift is, like your product or service, but everything else around it. But when you find ways to kind of give everything else away, it allows you to have that ease, that happiness, and to delegate.
Yes.
And delegating is hard.
It is hard. And it's funny because I mean, in entrepreneurship, you will be all of those things starting out. You know, I talked about that the other day on Twitter and Instagram. Like, if you want to start a business because you want to do what you love, you do have to be okay with doing what you don't love for the first year, 2, 3, maybe even 7 years.
A little longer sometimes.
Right? Until you're making enough money to be able to hire. And again, that's where that willingness to do what needs to be done still has to always be there. But when you're at a level where it doesn't need to be done by you, that's when you have to get honest with yourself and say, am I willing to relinquish control?
I think it's the switch that we're seeing more and more people talk about, where when you're an entrepreneur, and honestly, let's switch this to 9-to-5ers too. Like, when you're building a career, we think career first and you fit your life into the career. I remember when I got, I don't want to call it my first big girl job, but when I got a job where I knew it was going to take up significant amount of my life, I literally knew I was starting the job on Monday. I went and put an IUD in the week before.
Wow.
Because I knew this was not a job where getting pregnant was an option.
Wow.
And I'm like, I think about that now. I thought that I was just in this moment of like, hey, I am doing what I need to do. Like, I'm protecting myself, but it's like, no, that's probably not the way I should have thought.
Right.
I just knew this was not a time, if anything were to happen, it's like, I need to make sure I'm doing everything I can do, because I need a year to 2 years to settle.
Yeah.
Versus we should be thinking the opposite. We should think like, let me create this life.
Yeah.
And the business is a piece. The job is a piece.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know, I love that you even shared that, your level of vulnerability. I really appreciate that. I do believe that, you know, a lot of us have built a life where our career does have to come first, because honestly, we have had this limited reality and a limited mindset of there's only so many different ways to make money.
Yes.
We are so fortunate to be living in 2022, and there's so many options and opportunities to be able to make money, that we do now have the privilege to build a career or build a business that serves our life versus our life serving our business or our career. And we have so many more opportunities than our parents did, than our grandparents did. And we need to leverage those opportunities, or else why are they even here?
100%. I think that's something I'm personally working on too, is like, how can I create this life? I think I'm currently making that switch of working all the time, and then kind of switching, like, let me make sure my life is happy.
Yes.
So as we kind of switch to talk about your company now, nobody knows messaging better than you. Nobody. If you've seen Maya on stage, I think it is phenomenal watching you coach live, where someone comes up and says like, well, I think I want to do this. Like, I think I'm selling this to this. And Maya's like, no, this is what you're doing. And you're like, oh my God, let me write it down really quick, because this is exactly what I want. So let's kind of take a step back for folks who haven't heard the term messaging. So how do you define messaging?
Messaging is really just how you articulate who you are, what you do, and who you serve. So those are the 3 questions that I tell my clients that they need to be able to answer. Who am I? Who do I serve, and how do I serve them? And the messaging piece is being able to clearly articulate that, and also clearly articulate the value in that, especially when it comes to business. Because a lot of times when people are recognizing that they're not working with dream clients, they're not working on dream projects, they're not attracting the opportunities that they want, it's because there is that lack of clarity, and they're also not showing the value that they bring to the table. So people aren't convinced, so to speak, that they are worth paying them for whatever their product or service is.
And I think I know for 9-to-5ers who may be listening right now, many times we don't talk about messaging. Sometimes we say personal and professional branding, but I always give the example of entrepreneurs because we have to fine tune this because you literally won't make money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but for 9-to-5ers, I want you to hear that again, like rewind, go back 15 seconds, 30 seconds, listen again. Because if you can't define that, you're not going to get the jobs you want.
Yes.
Because you have to still articulate your value. Someone shouldn't just be reading your resume and being like, oh my gosh, like I think you'd be great for this. Like putting the things together. You need to put it together so the company understands.
Yeah. I think, in career and building a business, it's very similar in the way that you have to position your value, whether you're trying to land a client or you're trying to land a job. I think if a lot of people started looking at their boss as a client and looking at their career as a project that they want to continue building a relationship with and earning more money with, you have to show up consistently, do the work, and show why you're the best candidate to be chosen.
100%. I tell all my folks that you are simply lending your skills to an employer during your tenure there. Like they don't own them. You essentially are your business.
Yeah.
So where did this talent come from? How did you become this GOAT?
To be honest, I think the talent came from the fact that I don't understand complex things very easily. Okay. And so for people that don't know my story, I dropped out of college to work for myself full time. I didn't really do that well in college. I first went to a community college and I did pretty okay there because the classrooms were smaller. But when I went to a bigger university, I was lost. I was struggling. I'm like, I don't understand this stuff. And so when I work with my clients, their issue is that they know their industry so well that they speak in expert jargon. And so I literally don't understand what they're talking about. And I force them to dumb down their message to bring it to my level. And that's what you need to do with excellent messaging. You have to speak the language of the person that you want to connect with, not speak your language. And people struggle with that because they're trying to prove that they know what they're doing. And so because I force people to simplify their messaging for me to understand, I recognize where then people struggle to communicate it. Because once they start telling me what they do and I regurgitate it back to them, they're like, holy crap, yes, that's exactly what I do. And that's really a big reason of how I got here with messaging.
I love that. I think you can correct me if I'm completely wrong, but I think this is when you talk about selling the transformation. Like you're not selling the details of like all of the things. Yeah. It's how do you sell that transformation that happens as a result of, because that's the sexy part.
Yes.
Is the transformation. Yes. The how, the whatever, all that stuff is generally not sexy.
It's not. Yeah. And I spoke about that at Impact Week and actually just on a coaching call. But yeah, a lot of times the only people who think the process is sexy is the person in that industry, right? Like the only person who thinks it's exciting to run and lift weights is the trainer, not the trainee.
No, I want to look and have a hot girl summer. That's what's sexy to me.
Exactly. Yes. One of my clients who's a therapist, her expertise is emotional intelligence for high achieving women. And I'm like, stop trying to make emotional intelligence sexy. It's not going to resonate with us. We don't want to cry. We don't want to tap in with our emotions, but we're willing to go through the process once we know the transformation. The transformation is sexy.
Yes, 100%. So I know as we're coming to a close, I think you've made it crystal clear about how important messaging is, but we know it's important to get the client, but what is like the real result of when you get your messaging down and your business is so defined, or your personal brand? What is the result? And I think I know what you're going to say. Ooh, but I think I want people to hear it.
I think the first thing that comes to mind, well, and I'm talking about marketplace specifically, is when you know your messaging, one, it's easier to attract more of what you want. And it's really important to understand that messaging is not just about attracting who you want to work with. It's also about repelling people and repelling projects that you don't want to work on. It makes it so much easier. Your yeses are your yeses and your nos are your nos. And the other thing is, it's so much easier to sell.
Yes.
So much easier to sell.
Indeed.
I can make up an offer on the spot. And so while people are going back and forth, how many weeks should this be? What should this look like? What's the price point? I can have a conversation with somebody and make up an offer on the spot because I'm so clear on what I do and who I work with and the transformation, because that's what we're selling at the end of the day.
Yes. And I'm like, I think the last piece of that, what I thought you were going to say is like, this is how you make money.
Yes.
Like that's how the receipts literally come in. These
Yes.
is when Stripe notifications come in, all the things.
The Stripe notifications.
Yes, you see the smile? If you're watching on YouTube, there was the big smile that just happened. I love that. So tell us what's next for you.
What's next? In this season, I am just prioritizing working with my clients in our accelerator. We just onboarded a little over 50 to 60 new clients.
Yes.
So we are very excited to be working with them, helping them master their message, helping them create their signature offers, activate their brand, and make money, which is what I love. You know that my favorite sport is watching women make money. So that's what I'm doing in this season.
Yes, indeed. And can you also tell us about Impact Weekend 2023, please?
Yes. Impact Weekend 2023 will be March 3rd through 5th.
Okay.
So Impact Weekend is my annual live event, 3 days. We actually usually do it in February, but there's still snowstorms in the United States in February. So
I noticed the date changed.
Yeah. So we decided to push it to March, but Impact Weekend is really the go-to event for women who want to master their message, build their brand, and take their business to 6 figures, primarily women of faith. So if you love God and you also love turning up and being hype with other women,
It's a party.
then yes, it is a party. And I'll say, you know, I guess maybe this is tooting my own horn, but I think what I'm most excited about and impressed with Impact Weekend is how much fun we have, but how potent the value is still.
100%. And I think the only piece I want to add there is that sometimes we feel like we have to be prepared to get in the room. I think Impact Weekend is one of the few rooms as a business owner that you could be just starting, or you could already be making significant money and you will still find value, which I think is unique, because sometimes when you've been making money, you're like, I need the room to be of this people. This isn't going to work for me. I won't get the information. Or when you're just starting, you're like, oh my gosh, like everybody is making 6 figures. I haven't made like $100 consistently, but the room works both ways. I'm like,
Thank
so
you
I just
for
wanted to
that.
add that piece.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I love that we can all come together and learn. I think the beauty in that is whether you're starting or whether you're making money, you still have to grow and you still have to
100%.
learn. And so I love that. Impact Weekend is the environment to cultivate that.
Yes. So let us know where we can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram at Maya Elious, MayaElious. I always have to spell it because people sometimes call me Maya Elious.
Yes,
and
we do.
I'm like, only for my close friends and only after 9 o'clock.
Yes.
And you can also find me at built2impact.com and on Instagram at built2impact.
I love it. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Perfect.
I just want to hug you.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And with that, y'all, may your next move be your very best move. Until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in this week to the Your Next Move podcast. Don't forget to share this episode with a colleague or friend so we can all level up together. If you enjoyed today's episode, please write a review wherever you listen to podcasts. And lastly, if you're looking to join a community of thriving professionals, I invite you to join the Next Move Best Move community, my private community of professionals that includes the Manifest Yourself signature leadership development courses, monthly lunch and learns, and more. For more information, please go to KimberlyBeOnline.com/community. Until next week, remember to make your next move your very best move.